everybody. It's your girl Charlene with Soul Sisters Talk, and thank you guys for joining us. Today we are doing part 2 of our series on marriage. The journey of marriage, the ups and the downs, and we can make them together. We can make it through them together. One of our commitments on Soul Sisters Talk is to always feature ordinary men and women doing extraordinary things in their lives. People who are impacting the world day by day, little by little, change by change. So this series is designed to do the same, to create an open dialogue about marriage, its ups and its downs, and to know how marriage is honorable before God. We know that it is challenging to mix and mesh 2 personalities, 2 willpowers, and 2 hearts together. But certainly we can do it, and we can make it through those challenges. And so today we're going to explore with this couple how they made it through. I want to introduce to you our guest today, and I want to thank them in advance for being open and transparent today on our show, being vulnerable to tell other people and to help them how they too can go through this journey called marriage together. Today we have Mr. Christopher Warren and Melissa Terrell. They met in 2000 and they were married in 2002. They have 3 lovely children. I hope I'm saying her name right. Zaina,
yes,
22, who is graduating from Winston-Salem State University in August this year. Whoop, whoop.
Hey. Celebration time.
Their son, Christopher Jr., who's 17, better known as Chris Feed. He's an R&B and hip-hop artist who's graduating from high school this year on his birthday, June 10th. And then their baby daughter, Destiny, who's 16, and she's a rising senior who loves doing hair. Yes, and I've seen her work on my son.
Great job.
And developing natural hairline products.
Right.
The family has started to come to their own and developing their own children and familyhood. And they started out in Brooklyn, New York. And they relocated to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is Warren's hometown. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they've gone through many triumphs, challenges, heartaches, ups and downs, but their family is rooted in the faith of God, and that has kept their values on the forefront. This has enabled this family to continue to be an inspiration to others, even in their imperfections. They are also the owners of Writing Life Entertainment, which is a family business. Their oldest son, Chris Feed, which we mentioned earlier, who is a high school senior this year, graduating, is currently pursuing a career in entertainment industry. He has released his first album, entitled Inevitable by Chris Feed. The heart of these trailblazing parents are for their 3 children to pursue their passions and follow their dreams. Their daughters are also interested in following the family business of entertainment as well. So welcome, you busy people.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your business, Writing Life Entertainment.
Well, it was a business I started when I was in New York because, I left here in 92 to pursue music career along with my partner at the time, Adrian Hinton. And, we were just young and gullible and go-getters trying to pursue. And when I separated ways of becoming men and doing our own thing, I started Writing Life Entertainment. And I started it through my publishing, which I have with ASCAP, and which is the main way you eat when you're a writer and songwriters and producers and whatnot. So I kind of just blended that into my business and hope to one day bring that business to fruition in North Carolina. So I've done that and got our first artist, which is my son, Chris. And we hope to expand and do a lot of other things, but that's the gist of it.
Let me know if you need some female artists.
Hey, bring it on. We're going to need all of it. We just got to get the first one off and run.
Let me give me some hot tea, sip on my voice, get my vocal cords right.
Come on, get with it.
I'm still waiting for my pop album.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you got to get the wife on first. You got to get the wife. Melissa, I can be your backup singer, girl.
I did record her, though. We got a song together. We just,
all right.
All right. My boy Med, he loved her voice. The producer I worked with in New York.
It's funny listening to it now.
Sounded like J-Lo.
Oh, girl. Better get that J-Lo check, okay?
Get that money.
Get that money, honey. Well, that's good. You guys are really busy, and, it is an honor to share this platform with you guys. Just an honorable mention, you guys were in a magazine recently, weren't you, Mr. Terrell?
Yeah,
really?
Tell us a little bit about that.
That was the Sir Walter magazine. So they featured me and my son, where, since I started doing this years ago, they wanted to feature me, and they know my relationship with my son is, when you're a Black man, they don't usually see a bond of, a man and a son and a father. So they wanted to feature that. Of course, they followed the entertainment as well. But the writer, Miss Laura Wiggins, she followed me. She's been following me for years, and she wanted to do an article on me and my son, just with the growth and where he's going and what we've been doing. So I was honored to be a part of that, because Sir Walter magazine is not just like an urban magazine. It's a really popular magazine, especially here. It's one of the biggest ones here.
Well, blessings to you guys. And I read the article. I saw the pictures. I was like, I know them people. They my friends.
Thank you.
Got to get that edition.
Yeah, we got to get Mr. Feed on here maybe one day to feature him, and he can tell us a little bit. I'm interested in to know how he came up with his name. So I don't want y'all to think, but I'm going to have to get him to tell me that. So we'll have to get him on here.
Absolutely.
So we like to start our podcast off with interesting quotes. So Reggie's going to pick our first quote for today. He got to put his glasses on.
Yeah, I got to be able to see. Well, this is an unknown artist or poet. And one of the quotes that she said, a husband and a wife may disagree on many things, but they must absolutely agree on this, to never, ever give up. So I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
And so I like to do quotes because I think they're thought-provoking. They make us think, and when we're talking about marriage, one of the important things is that marriage is possible to work when both people have the same end goal. And so if the end goal is to never give up, then we're going to exhaust all possibilities that we possibly can, right? So how do y'all feel about that quote?
Totally agree.
That's it.
100%.
I like that quote, but I'm just reading it for the first time, so I'm kind of digesting.
Read it again, Reg.
Okay, it says by another artist, a husband and wife may disagree on many things, but they must absolutely agree on this: never to give up. To never ever give up. And I think people forget our vows and the importance of our covenant, that we come into this thing with one goal.
Right.
Togetherness, love, eternal love, unlimited love, and to forever love.
Right.
And I think people forget those vows, for better or worse, rich or poor, sickness or in health. I mean, marriage encompasses a whole gamut of characteristics and attributes of things that occur just through life.
Right.
And I think people forget that, today it may not be a good day. Today I may be broke. Tomorrow I may be rich. But through it all, this is who I choose to do it with. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So my worst days with her are my best days, because I have someone to endure the journey with.
Amen.
Right. Absolutely.
And to have someone to love me unconditionally who ain't my mother.
Right. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? To have that same kind of love from a person, but you have an intimate experience with her is an awesome thing. So I do love that quote.
Yeah, and also just to tag along with that, a lot of the people that do become, well, especially in this new generation that we've had over the last 20 years, when people are getting married and whatnot, they don't look at it as, you know, what the vows really mean. You know, of course, now people change the vows of what, you know, it's not really biblical and whatnot, and they make up their own, which is fine.
Yes.
Each their own, but they don't do it in a way where, with the last line that you mentioned about don't give up on each other.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because they always give themselves an out.
Yes.
And when you give yourself that option for an out, you know, many times you're going to choose that out.
Absolutely.
You know, and I understand certain situations where, you know, it's, you know, when you abuse and, you know, certain things that you can't get over. I get those, but, you know, sometimes people just give up just because they just don't want to be with that person anymore for whatever reason. And that's not what the union of marriage was about. So we, you know, I look at my parents who have been a great inspiration for me, and everybody doesn't have that.
Yes.
But because of them, I value, you know, what marriages should be.
Absolutely.
And they weren't perfect either. So I know if they weren't perfect, we're not going to be perfect. We're not all going to always agree. Like, you know, we told you right before the podcast, you know, we argued about getting this Zoom video right. You know, but I did it my way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what's up?
You know, it's just silly stuff. You know, I wanted to sign into my account. She was like, you don't have to sign into your account. But I chose to do it, right? Just because little stuff like that leads to a lot of bigger things that people just take out of context. We don't take it out of context. We laugh about it later, which is what we always do. But some people don't know how to get beyond certain things that turn into bigger, you know, things that you have to deal with. So we make fun of it.
Absolutely. That's good.
I also say that divorce is not an option.
Yeah,
yes.
She told me that. She kind of scared me a little bit. She was like,
so, you know, one of our friends recently got married, and everybody's, you know, toasting to them and giving them advice on being married. And that was one of my advice was divorce is not an option. You're stuck forever.
Yes. And that is an awesome quote that you say, divorce is not an option, because it doesn't leave room for anybody for an out.
Right.
You know, what it basically says is, through it all, we're gonna work it out.
Right.
Through it all, there's resolution. And most importantly, any and everything can be reconciled through Christ.
Right.
Everything is forgivable. You see what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people miss that in marriage, because they go in with a preconception notion, and if it don't work according to their plan, which how many people's plans work out?
Right. Exactly. Plans are made to be changed.
How many people's plans work out? It just, man, I had the best plan when I go to work on Monday morning. As soon as I get on the job site,
exactly. It's called life, man.
We transition. It's called life. You know,
it's called life.
I look back over the times when me and my wife first got married to now, and all the weddings that I was in, a lot of them people ain't even married no more.
Right. Exactly.
Same for us.
You see what I'm saying?
And that just leads me to say, Reg, choose wisely.
Yes, sir.
You know,
absolutely.
You just don't. I mean, a lot of people just run and see storybooks and think that's what the wedding is going to be.
Yes.
And when it's not going accordingly, they want to opt out.
Yes.
You know, choose wisely. You just don't choose a partner just because he or she may look good, or he or she may have something that you might want to be a part of. You got to choose because you feel that.
Yes.
You know, I am one person that had been married before and didn't work out, and, you know, terrible breakup, and same with her. And, you know, that devastated me.
Yes.
Right? Just because, like I mentioned before, watching my parents, I thought that, you know, my vision was to be married forever, right?
Yes.
So I was like, man, I'm never doing this thing again, ever. You know, I was young, I was gullible, and, you know, it didn't work out like it was supposed to. And same situation, similar with her. So when we met, I was like, man, you know, I had turned into something that, you know, is not of God. You understand? You know, I was out there in New York. I was
He's putting all his business in the street.
Yeah, I turned to a wild man. I was up there in the music industry. You know, I was working. I was single, looking for something that, you know, I knew I probably would never get.
Yes,
but I was just reaching for things that wasn't there. So when I did meet her, I was like, you want somebody that treats you, you know, that treats you good and do certain things for you. And she was doing all that and she scared me. I was like, man, this can't be real. You know, It can't be real. Right. And that's how I looked at it. Like, nah, nobody treats you like that unless they're trying to set you up. And that's how I felt. Because, you know, me chasing women in New York and, you know, all whining and dining them and just doing all these things, you know, going to different parties and just out there, I just didn't see anybody genuine. So I never thought I would settle down again. And when she started treating me like that, I was like, man, what's going on?
Yes, sir.
You know, but it was a godsend. You know, she's been a godsend to me. So that was the reason why we're still together now.
But it's normal to feel that way because when you're burned once, you know, you have that stigma for everyone, and same with me. But usually the writings are on the wall from the beginning, and you choose to see it or not. And I guess being young and naive, you feel like, well, maybe it will work, you know. And of course, it didn't. It didn't work for us. But we learned from it.
Right.
And I've learned from it. Right. So when I'm looking, well, I wasn't looking myself either. We kind of just stumbled on each other, but you already know what you want.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, ma'am.
You know what to look for and what not to look for.
And that's good, because I was going to ask how you guys met, but now we kind of heard a little bit about it. When you was on your rendezvous up in New York chilling, you stumbled across a pretty young thing.
Yes, it's pretty funny how we met.
We have two versions of the story.
We all do.
My version got music to it.
We have a soundtrack version.
Well, go tell us your version of how y'all met.
So I had a Haitian friend. I lived in Brooklyn at the time, and I had this Haitian friend. We called him Hennessy on the block. So when I moved to Brooklyn from Jersey, I was, you know, staying on this street called Hawthorne, and full of people from the islands, right? You know, St. Albans, Trinidad, Jamaica, just anywhere, Barbados, everywhere that you can think of. Everybody on that block was from an island, right? Mm-hmm. And for the first probably year and a half, 2 years, I didn't deal with anything. I'm in and out, you know. And again, like I said, I was bringing people in and out, and I just keep moving because I didn't know them, they didn't know me. That's their block, so I was just in and out. But after a while, you know, they started offering me food, and we became the best of friends. You know, they still family right now today. And anyway, I was kind of down this particular Saturday, and my man was like, yo, T, just jump in the car and ride with me. We go to the city, look for some girls. You know what I'm saying? That was it. Like, yo, let's go.
That makes us happy.
Let's go down to the city and check some girls right quick. So I hops in this truck. We roll around. We go down Empire Boulevard, which is a kind of famous boulevard in Brooklyn, where there's what's the skate ranch? What was the stadium? Yeah. So anyway, we're going on this block, and he's like, "Yo, T, hold up." He makes a U-turn, right? And evidently he saw somebody, and he then made another U-turn, and Spanish girl sitting over here at the bus stop. And my man Haitian, he speak like 5 different languages, so he over there like, you know, all that. And Melissa looking at him like, get away from me. Like, please just pull off and get away, yada, yada. But she on my side, right?
He on the passenger
I'm on the passenger side. I'm the scrub, right?
His best friend's ride.
So I said, yo, let me get this. So I start talking to her. I get out. Now she's looking at me like, oh my gosh, please get away from me.
Yeah. From one to the next one.
Yeah, but when I start talking to her, the music started coming on. You know what I mean?
Your own theme music came on.
Yeah, it was so crazy. Like she was so locked in on the words I was saying. She gave me a kiss, man. I made a
I can't wait to hear Melissa's version.
That's his version,
You know,
right?
my shoes like that. I was like, I got you, girl. I got you. You know what I mean? I started doing the LL song where he's sucking on a lollipop at the bus stop. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my version. That's my version.
And we believe your version. Okay, Melissa, let's hear your version.
Yeah. Because
That's what happened.
I like mine.
That's what happened, Reg.
So I was on my way to the club because that's what young people do on the weekend. But I was actually going to meet my cousin, and the boulevard that he's talking about, those blocks are long. They're like, even though it was like 3 blocks to get to the train station, there are 3 long blocks. So of course I'm dressed to go out. So in New York, there's a lot of catcalling. They call at you, and I didn't want that attention. So I said I would take the bus to get to the train station. So that's why I was standing at the bus stop. But I did see a vehicle go by. It was a white SUV. And then I seen it come back with a signaling. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, please don't make a U-turn over here. And sure enough, they turned in right in front of me. And like he said, his friend was talking to me in Spanish. I don't remember what he said, but I'm just like, okay, keep it moving. But he came out and he introduced
You heard the music?
He started gliding out.
That was the theme music. I started gliding over to it.
So he came out and he was talking to me. And I think in my mind, I'm like, should I give him my real name? Or, and then he was asking me, of course, where I was going. And I told him, and he mentioned about a party. So one of my other friends, I had wanted her to come with me to this party that I was going to, but because she had a car, right? But she was going to the party he mentioned. So that clicked. And I was like, oh, well, my friend is going to that party. He said, you should go. And then I was like, well, we already had plans and I'm meeting someone. So that started the conversation. And then my bus just went by.
So now you need a ride.
I said, you made me miss because I guess they saw people standing around, didn't think it was at night. So
right,
waiting for the bus, they just drove by. I was like, oh my gosh. And my cousin is calling me like, where are you? And I'm thinking I'm going to have to walk those 3 long blocks. They offered me the ride. And of course I was scared to go in, but I was also kind of desperate.
I was like, girl, I got you.
I don't recommend everybody to do that, but I was kind of desperate, but I will jump out of a moving vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I know that's right.
So they took me to the train station. They offered to take me to the club when I said no. I told them we were meeting someone else, which wasn't true. But I thanked them. I did give him a kiss on the cheek, thanking him.
See,
but he makes it seem
5 minutes, man. 5 minutes. I had a Reg. 5 minutes.
5 minutes, Melissa.
It was just a thank you kiss on the cheek, and we exchanged numbers.
How soon did he call you back?
10 o'clock in the morning,
I think she had you, brother.
Oh.
It was 11 o'clock the next day, brother.
I'm still recuperating.
That's funny.
So then the next question I would have had, it was love at first sight, for at least for Warren, since he heard the music.
Nah, it really wasn't love at first sight. I ain't gonna, but it was, it took me a while to get there.
Okay.
Because I was unsure. Yeah, I was just doing my regular.
It was flirt at first sight.
Of course.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, we really couldn't really see each other until maybe the next day in the light.
Yeah, because it was
nighttime.
Yeah, it was just getting dark at the time I saw her. But we did meet up the next day for lunch, and started kicking. We've been kicking it ever since.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
let me ask a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
I would say we talked for hours. I think I knew everything about him that Sunday.
That's not good. That's when you know it's gonna be a good relationship, when you can just spend lots of time just talking and talking and talking. Warren, let me ask the question that I've asked all the men on the show. When you grew up, was marriage something that your family talked about, or as a man you grew up, or young boy you grew up thinking, I can't wait to get married, I'm excited about it, that's what I'm looking forward to doing in life?
Well, I never said I can't wait to get married, but I thought that was part of what it was supposed to be. I thought that was just part of the lineup of life. You know, again, like I said, my parents were married, so I figured that was what I was um, supposed to do as well. But it wasn't that I couldn't wait to get married. Yeah, but it was a, you know, it was the lineup of what I saw. You know, I saw my, you know, I had quite a few people within my family, not everybody, because most marriages in my family didn't work out. You know, with aunts and uncles and cousins and things of that nature. But my parents did, and I had an uncle, several older aunts and uncles that were married for years. So you just admire those and hope that you would be in a situation of the same.
How about for you, Melissa? Did you grow up thinking about marriage, and that's something that was a goal of yours, or?
Eventually, I mean, my family, a lot of my family members did not get married. They were just cohabitating, and that was the norm. And my mother actually got married when I was 10, and she kind of started a trend that then my uncle got married and then my aunt. So she kind of inspired, I guess, my other family members to get married. But as I got older, that was something I wanted to do it right. I felt marriage and then children, you know, I wanted to be in the order that it should be.
Absolutely.
Good. So let me start asking some questions to you guys. So looks like y'all had a very interesting and very illustrated
Convergence.
memory of how y'all connected. So I like both versions. I love the music. He just floated up to you and you just whisked away. I love it. What was some of the hardest challenges that you guys faced early on as young couples in your marriage? Do you remember like one thing that maybe stuck out to you, Warren, and then maybe one thing that stuck out to you, Melissa, when y'all were young in marriage?
Yeah, for me, it was my wife had a child already, a toddler. So I was like, man, I'm not getting into a relationship with all, you know, have to deal with a baby daddy drama, you know, and I'm single and I don't have any. So I was like, why would I do that? Why would I put myself in a situation like that? And so that was some things that I held back on from the beginning, just because I was like, I didn't want to put myself in a situation like that. But then after being around, Zana was 2 years old at the time, and I kind of fell in love with her before I fell in love with Melissa. You know what I mean? So it was like, that's what really got things going. But even with that, it was some barriers because Zana's grandparents' background were Jehovah's Witnesses, and I wasn't, you know, I wasn't brought up. So there were there was friction with that. So those were the things that started out like, I'm not sure about this.
Yes, sir.
And how to handle that, because that just brought on things that, you know, I wasn't accustomed to trying to deal with and trying to get through it.
Okay.
But, you know, God is good. God is the ultimate provider, and was able to get us through it in ways that I, you know, wasn't sure if we would be able to make it through.
That's good.
What
about you? What about you, Melissa?
I mean, the same thing. So having a child, and especially a girl, you know, you're very protective of who you bring into your home.
Praise the Lord.
And, you know, that's why even after my separation, I couldn't date like I wanted to, because she was my priority.
Yes.
So meeting him, of course, you know, it wasn't planned, but when I saw how he treated my daughter, that's what made me love him, is because he loved her, you know. And you know, and during my journey, I've always been, you know, I didn't grow up going to church every Sunday. You know, I used to go to church. I was raised Catholic, and I went for a short while, but most of my teenage life didn't go to church. That wasn't something that we did. unless it was Easter. We were the Easter attendees, right? Once a year.
Holidays.
So I was always searching for spiritual guidance. And when, like he mentioned, my daughter's grandparents were Jehovah's Witnesses. So of course they poured into me their beliefs, and I studied with them for a while. And then when we met, of course, I still had some of those values of being a Jehovah's Witness, and then he raised Baptist. So we did clash a little bit on the spiritual side in the beginning.
So those are both, I mean, relatable concerns, right?
Absolutely.
Like couples could go through today. Can you guys tell us, with that, as y'all faced those early on, how did you guys start learning how to deal with conflict resolutions as your marriage grew on the journey? What kind of things did y'all use to resolve that? I mean, you can tell us the nitty gritty, the rough stuff, to where y'all are now, if you're able to.
I mean, I was always right. Nah.
Once he says sorry, we were good.
You know what it was? It was really just, the God in me and the knowledge that she had of the Bible. Because once we realized that, the Bible it has everything we need, right?
Absolutely.
And then I had a father. I still have a father, but my father was always that spiritual guidance for me. So when I had certain questions about certain things, he would, kind of guide me, right? And then just overall having a good mindset for myself of what I've already seen and been through. So because of my history and of seeing certain things and knowing certain things, I kind of handle things more maturely and using wisdom. And even when we were searching for a church to worship at in New York, the first one we went to, I took her to this Baptist church on Washington Avenue. And I liked it because it reminded me of home, right? She wasn't feeling it. And we ended up finding...
Why I didn't like it? I think they sang for 5 hours.
Right.
I was just like,
yeah,
He's a musician, huh?
It was kind of long now. We caught them on one of those Sundays where it was a big celebration going on, and they were nonstop. So after about 3 hours, yeah. But we ended up finding this place called Christian Cultural Center, which was non-denominational, led by the Reverend A.R. Bernard, and he was probably the greatest teacher I had ever come in contact with. And he was straight about the Bible. It wasn't about a denomination or where you're from, where you've been. It was about learning and knowledge, giving you wisdom. And we both, embraced that well. So that's what really made us stronger, and then had our family in a stronghold. And that's really how our journey really began there, once we put God in the midst of everything that we were doing.
Praise God.
That's good.
and then being honest. I'm sorry. And then just honest, honest about how we feel, not keeping secrets, being open, showing our vulnerability, not having the pride, to be, and sometimes you can still be stubborn, but still not keeping that window, that guard up, just able
I
to.
think we had that struggle too when we first got married, because we was worshiping in 2 different locations with 2 churches. So we had to find a medium that worked for both of us, that we can worship, because she had a family church, I had a family church. He didn't want to stay, and I didn't want to go.
Right.
But we had to launch out on our own because of, I think, doing our counseling with Reverend Robinson, one of my ministers who counseled us before we got married. He made specifically and some instructions clear about our marriage. It's our marriage.
Right.
Okay? And that resonated with me so vividly because, I come from a family, bless your heart, when you're doing what they want you to do.
Absolutely.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
When you're doing opposite, because you lead in your family, and
Right.
God is using you and putting dominion in you to do so, it became a problem.
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just made our family structure so much easier to grow and mature in the things of Christ without having any strongholds or hindrance from either side, because we was newly married and we didn't need that.
Right.
We had enough to deal with. You know what I mean? So I commend y'all for working through that, because that could really hinder or destroy a relationship, especially in the finite beginning of a relationship.
Right. And I know for me, we both were very active in our church. And I know this sounds weird, but I didn't want him to be Charlene's husband. You know what I mean? When he came to the church, he was my husband. And I was proud to be Reggie's wife, you know, but he had history at it. I really wanted us to have something that would be the Williams family. They would know us as a collective versus the individuals. And let me tell you, one thing I've learned is that people love to remind you of who you were before.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and if they mean you know good in your relationship and you constantly are in that environment, they'll constantly remind you, yeah, I remember your husband when. Well, I don't need you to remind me of that all. You know, that was 21 years ago. That ain't, you know, I don't need you to remind me of that. So I was glad that we made that decision. Let me read another quote. It says, marriages stand the test of time when both of you and your spouse work towards making things better. And we are tested the most when we face adversity. If you can sail through the adversity as one, as a team, then you have won half the battle. And it sounds like as you guys grew in your relationship with conflict resolution, Warren said, one of the things that I grabbed from what you said, Warren, was time. Like over time, you grew wisdom and it started teaching you how to handle conflict in your relationship differently. Right. And then I harnessed from what you said, Melissa, was honesty. We learned how important it was to be honest with each other and to be open. And I think those things are two of the most powerful things that you guys said that matter in any effective relationship, because yes, who you are in the beginning of that relationship certainly can't be who you are, shouldn't be who you are a year from now, 5 years from now, and 20 years from now. You have to evolve. There's a quote on there that talks about, I think we read last time, I'm not sure. It talks about evolution of change. And so that's what Warren was saying. I grew, I had to grow. You know, you grow and you learn. And then if you're constantly keeping secrets from each other and you're not telling each other the full truth, I think that opens a can of worms in relationships. We did I did a show some time ago on statistics of marriage. And one of the greatest dissolutions of marriage is communication. Is the failure of communications and relate. And you would think people who are intimate, and when I'm talking about intimate, I'm not talking about sexual intimacy singly. I'm talking about intimate where we're close to each other.
Right.
That we have such a hard time just learning to communicate well with each other. Right. And it destroys relationships. So I'm really glad that you guys have learned open and honest dialogue and, you know, put time, which grows wisdom. And so that's really good. I want to ask you guys about raising children. You kind of talked a little bit about that when you started saying how you met. What were some of the challenges that you guys faced, you know, raising children? And I know we face a lot, especially with this day and age. And from the first set of kids we have to the second set, you know, there's that, how many years? 7 years? 7 years between them. You know, that's a big, it was a big change. How about you guys?
Going to the Zoom call for that one.
And that's gonna be a whole nother session. I know, right? Did you guys have, let me ask you, did you guys have the same parenting style? Did you guys talk about how you would parent your kids?
No, we don't have the same parenting style.
No. But that balances everything out though.
But one thing we do, we don't argue. We try not to argue in front of them. Even though kids will try to turn you against each other, where they ask you something and then if you say no, they go to the other parent. You know, we try to, well, in the beginning when they were younger, we try to have that discussion behind the scenes. But they still would do it, of course. And they'll get on him. course.
Yeah, my thing is, I mean, we definitely had different styles of raising kids. First of all, we different cultures, different, just handle things differently. I came from, they didn't spare that rod.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, sir.
They put that thing on us growing up.
Did you have to go get your own switch?
Nah, my parents didn't use switches. They used the belt.
You had
And
to
my
go
mother
get your own
used
belt.
whatever she could get her hands on.
You got hold of me before.
Time to go get a switch. I would see some of my aunts do that to some of my cousins, but that took too much time. When my mother mad, she picking up shoes or dish rags, whatever was in the way.
So we were both abused.
Yeah.
But didn't want to pass that down.
Right. So, now don't get me wrong. I spanked my kids a few times growing up, but it was minimal. Zaina probably got more than anybody because Zaina was a terror, at the beginning. And, Christopher, a few times he got it and he got it. So you don't have to, in my mindset, if you got it, it's no need for me to keep going there. And that if there's something different that it just depends on the situation. You know what I mean? But Destiny, I don't ever remember doing her like that, but she claims I did. I just don't remember ever spanking her. I just don't. But I know I did Chris a few times and probably Zaina more than all of them.
Yes, sir.
And, as my son became of age, he started talking to his mother a certain way. When I think he was about 14, 15 years old, and Melissa kept saying, "You need to handle him, you need to,"
Those little mean-agers, I call them.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Mean-agers. We need a T-shirt with that, Melissa.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what they are, mean-agers.
So one day he was doing something, and I just caught him. But it was no spank. I just hit him in the chest.
Yes.
But she got mad at me. She was like, "I didn't baby up." Listen.
Knock the wind out of him.
But it was like,
hey, don't say too much. We'll be on TV.
Listen, but that was the only time. It was like he got it again. It was like sometimes you just gotta show him like, hey, this is my house. Don't disrespect my wife. Don't disrespect my home. Period.
Yes.
Right.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah, but as far as like other things, just raising kids, it's just totally. It's a different time where we have to do certain things different. They have so many things and elements against them now with the social media we've had to deal with our children, and many times the influence that they're receiving and seeing every day is difficult to bear for them because this is what they see and this is what they think life is supposed to be about. So instilling God in that segment and trying to teach them about that. We were fortunate to be a part of a church that they liked and loved at the time as well. So that helped in raising them because they knew who God was. They've been rooted. Anything else, like I told them, I can't save them, right?
Absolutely.
So when I pass away, God judges me, right? When God says it's time for me to go, He's judging me. My mother can't save me. Her and my father did the best thing that they could by raising me and teaching me. Then it was up to me. When they handed me the baton, it's just me and God now.
Yes.
So we've taught them the values of what God is. Now it's up to them to learn and continue that value. Of course, they're going to have their bumps and bruises in the roads, and that's what we're here for because, they're all at the point now where they think they know everything. Right?
Absolutely.
And they don't.
Yes.
And
it's impossible.
So we argue about that many times, and sometimes they get it. Some of them will get it quicker and earlier than others. But that's the hard part. The kiddie part, to me, that was fun.
Yes.
Right? When they became teenagers, it turned into something else. That's the hardest part for us is just trying to, when they're coming into their own and finding themselves. So.
Let me interject, and then Melissa, I'll hear your statement on this. did you guys, because I know Reggie and I, and since our children are close in age for our second set of kids, did discipline or your style of whether it was the way you communicated with them or discipline with them, did it ever cause conflict between you and Melissa?
That question for me or you?
Both of you.
Both of you, either one.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, because me and Reggie can be transparent. It did for
absolutely.
us, you know. I'm being the only woman, pretty much. I mean, our daughter's 27, so
Our people's gone.
yeah, and my niece that we raised, she's gone. So, having 3 boys in the house and Reggie being here, I think as a woman, I had to learn with parenting that parenting boys was different than parenting girls. And then definitely in the climate that we live in today for our African American or boys of color have to go through. And in the beginning, when they were younger, Dad was such a comfort communicator with them. You know, he was, let's do homework and I'm giving my boys baths and we're playing basketball. When they got older, it was kind of like, look, come here. You're not going,
Right.
you know. And Mom, I was like, oh, honey, don't. And I realized I did what Warren said earlier. In time, I grew to understand that the way he had to handle them and to get the point across to them would be different than I would, which I think one of y'all said is like healthy balance. So it did for a minute cause issues with us because I just didn't know how to handle it.
I think one of the problems I always had, I didn't want the kids to create division between me and my wife because of discipline.
Right. They will.
And you know, they will. So we had to work as a team on that aspect. But there was always the distinct difference between I'm your father, I'm not your friend, but we can have a friendly relationship. But I had to transition at each stage of life as they grew to get into their mindset to develop as young men. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes I had to change my teaching method and had to be a little bit harder to let them understand life is not fair, but you got to navigate through it. And
Absolutely.
navigation is going to require you sometimes to be an individual, just like you are now.
Right.
You know, the unique thing is you have other brothers and sisters. I remember one time me and Warren ran into each other at McDonald's, and we was like, "Yo, man, we got to get our kids together." I said, "Man, my kids will resent me. I try to hook them up like that." You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And next thing I knew, Chris and Kendall was like, buddy. I'm like, boy, God answered our prayers that day at McDonald's.
Absolutely, man. We spoke that into fruition right there.
We spoke that right in, but that's how God works.
It is, man.
He's so unique. He's omnipotent in all that he do, and he's always teaching me. And I'm sharing with my boys because the unique thing growing up, I taught them the Bible.
Right.
And I walked them through, and we was in a church that walked them through.
Right.
You know? And I passed to deal with men so strong. So, and on an individual level. So it was just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And they created an opportunity where my wife would always bring that balance that they needed because they was boys.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what I always loved about my wife. She could create an atmosphere totally different than me because at one time I was too soft.
Right.
And then she was like, "No, you need to tighten up on the boys now."
Right.
When I tighten up, you tighten it too tight.
Right. Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think parenting is always difficult, but I thank God we had a manual to always go to and teach from. You know, and the Bible just helped me develop wisdom and how to articulate my thoughts where they could understand also.
Right.
You know, and it taught them, you know, being a man is not an easy job, but that's the only position you got.
Right.
The only position.
Teaching them.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think my wife was such a great caregiver, a nurturer for them, and sometimes they didn't want to be with me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Then other time, where's Dad?
And now they don't want to be with me. They only want to be with their dad. Okay, I'm sorry, Melissa. What was your experience with parenting?
Well, when they were younger, they were a lot easier. Of course, you know, like he mentioned, Zaina always had some challenges, but I think the benefit of disciplining, even now that she's 22, she told me not too long ago, she goes, when you thought I wasn't listening, I was.
Praise the Lord.
So that made me feel like, okay, I didn't totally mess it up, right?
Right.
Because it's a trial by error. And like I said, now the two young ones, now that they're older, they have been very challenging. And he's been the voice of reason, where I'm like, because, and I just tell them, I just want the best, that's my whole goal is just, I want you guys to thrive. I want you guys to do better than us. I want you to always keep that relationship with God. And I'm thankful that we provided that groundwork for them spiritually, because again, they're going to make mistakes. We've all done it. We want to prevent them from doing it, but we can't, because life doesn't work that way. But at least that they will loop back around and go back to the source because of the plant that was seeded early on.
Absolutely.
And then even with Zaina, we saw her growth, because we didn't high school when even when she was a senior, we were like, oh boy, Melissa was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill her before she get to college, right? But when she got to college, it was like an about face. It was like she told Melissa, like when we didn't think she was listening, she was listening. So when those doors opened up and wisdom started to see through, and she embraced it, she saw what we had been trying to tell. Not that she wasn't making mistakes, but we saw like a 50% maturity rate over that first 2 years of college, and she still continues to grow and prosper. And so we are proud of her. And we're eager to see the other two do the same. And, again, they can make mistakes and they're going to make mistakes. But how we guide them and when they finally embrace it is everything. So it's like we feel accomplished then.
And that's so encouraging, because I think when they're young and you're going through that, you feel like, man, what did I do wrong? What could we have done better?
Right.
And then when they hit that stage, I can remember when Tiffany and Jermaine, who are now 27 and 26, said to me, Mom, we get it. We hear you. My son Jerry he's 19, he'll be 20 soon, and he's coming around saying, he understands things differently. And I think I'm like Melissa. You just want to protect your kids. You don't want to see them hurt. You want, I'm sure as a dad too, but I'm just speaking from a mother's heart. We don't even want to see them fall. It's like, what can I do to prevent this? And I've had to grow to learn that I can't protect them forever.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what Reggie was also, there was a part of him that was teaching me that they've got to experience life. And I'm like, yeah, they do, but not like this. Let me help them not do this. And, with time, we're learning, and we're still learning. Even with our oldest child being 27 years old, we are still in this learning game of parenting, because each stage of their life is different, because now we're learning how to parent adults.
Yes.
Right? Like, or young teenagers, like Kendall, my baby, my last one, just like, Zaina's, what's the baby's name?
Destiny's the last.
Destiny's the last one for you guys. With Kendall, I went through
parenting withdrawals.
Whoa, really? I mean, an emotional hard withdrawal, because he's no longer a baby. He no longer needs me. He much prefer to be around his dad than to be around me. He comes to me when he needs something, when he needs help, when he needs money, when he needs something fixed. But anything else is like, Mom, you don't know nothing where dad at. You know what I mean? And so that has been a challenge for me, because that used to be my partner, my road dog. I mean, we did everything together.
I think it's for both, even for me, because my desire for them is not to, I raised them where they never saw my sin. They never witnessed my previous and former life. And so I gave them an opportunity, something I didn't have. You see what I'm saying? And the uniqueness, I witnessed that through your dad, Warren, that, marriage. I went through that mystery. Right. I witnessed that, and they always was there for me. And I always watched your dad. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna preach about your dad one of my sermons, about faithfulness. Right. Because other people watching. That's the name of the sermon.
Right.
But in a way, just today with Kendall, you know, I was upset with him because he hurt his ankle at the skate park. And he got workouts. He's on a full scholarship to St. Aug. He got workout on Monday. So I was kind of upset with him. I come in and said, instead of working out, you up there on the skateboard and don't hurt yourself. So, and I walked in. So he was upset, and I went upstairs and I came up to him and I said, I apologize. I said, you're a young man, young adult. I have to appreciate your perspective and making your own decisions, even when I don't agree. And I just walked out. You know, and that's growth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Right.
all the kids, you know what I mean, even when I don't agree, you know what? That was your decision. How did that work out for you?
And the other thing, just to tag along with that, Reg,
Yes, sir.
My kids, as they've gotten older, all of them, especially with Zaina coming home to visit, you know, and us having disagreements sometimes, even when she visited. What I learned was us listening to them, right? We didn't always hear them, right? And, you know, that was one thing that we would be failures on many times when we did not listen. Sometimes, because we, you know, they can make us so angry, and us being the mother, the father, like, you are the child. I'm the, you know what I mean? And we miss what they're trying to tell us because we don't want to hear it. And when I finally started seeing that, when they started mentioning these things, even though we didn't want to hear it, they didn't communicate it right? They didn't say it right, but they made sense, right? They didn't say it right because they were upset too.
Yes, sir.
Which made us like, hey, you know.
Don't forget your place. You can still say what you want to say, but be respectful.
Once we started understanding what they were trying to tell us, it made us realize, at least me anyway, it made me realize, okay, I got to fall back a little bit because I don't know. There is no manual, right? We know God, but we don't know it all. So when they're trying to tell us something, I remember people not listening to me and thinking like they don't understand, right? They just, you know, being this dictator, which is what we ultimately were.
That's really good.
So I had to step back and be like, dang, she was right.
Right.
Was
and
right.
I'm repeating that cycle.
Destiny was right, you know, especially with, you know, Destiny coming up and, you know, being the baby girl and going through things. It was like, we could have been much better.
Yes.
If we would have just took time or taken time to, you know, like we sometimes look at things like, okay, well, that's just how teenagers are. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. Their door might be shut just because, you know, that's what they do. We had other teenagers, everybody we talked to, their teenagers get to the zone, but it's not like that. Sometimes you got to ask questions and hear their body movements. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or embrace their body movements. So that's.
But I just say I think parenting is transitional. You always changing. You growing as they growing, and I think we grow to try to make sure we're more beneficial to them for being their parents when they don't need us, when they need us less.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at my boys, it's like, you know, man, I'm still so proud of y'all.
Right.
I'm so proud of y'all. You know, I was coming out of prison when Kendall was going to school. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, just to witness where they're at, and I guess I'm trying to let them understand, more important, you at the apex of your life right now. The opportunities are so various and great for you. Please don't squander it. You know what I mean? So, but I'm like I said, I want to be more of a listener, more of their friend now.
Right.
You
and that's
know
the thing.
I mean? And hey, when you make a decision, let me know. You know what I mean? We be right here. You know what I mean? Because but now I know one thing. They hate for us trying to make that decision for them.
Right.
Hey, son, you know you can't win them size 12.
And rightfully so, because, you know, we put ourselves back in the time when we were growing up. We didn't like it either. So, you know, it's trying to find that transition. And so I hope that maybe somebody young is listening to this podcast and they'll know that even as a parent, we have to come back and say, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Absolutely.
I apologize. And I am proud of you. And I think that's what we have learned on our journey of parenting is to reassure our kids that even when we may be disappointed in something,
Right.
doesn't mean we don't love you, doesn't mean we're not proud of your accomplishments as a whole. We just disappointed about this particular thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
And like you said, I think you said something that was so important, Warren, is learning to listen.
Yeah.
And just as in marriage, we talked about that in our last podcast. One of the most important things is learning how to hear your significant other's heart,
Right.
not to start to think about what they're saying with your own head and manipulate it in your head. What did he mean by that? What was he really saying? Just
Right.
learn to listen to the words coming out of someone's mouth without anything extra put to it.
Right.
And I think when we can do that, even with our children, I think it makes it effective in building more solidified parenting relationships, just like with marriages. Let me ask you guys before we end this, it's been so insightful. What has marriage taught you, Melissa, about yourself? What has this, how many years have you guys been married?
18 years.
What has this 18 years taught you, Melissa, about yourself?
Start with me, huh?
I'll put you on the spot.
What has 18 years of marriage taught me? Patience.
So taught you that you needed more patience?
Yeah, I've learned to be more patient. Sometimes I have to let him be him.
Amen.
I'm able to be more open, as far as not having a wall up. So I'm comfortable being, open and free, no judgment. Like, he's my safe space, Not only are we married, he's my best friend. Like my kids would say, you don't have a lot of friends, right? I said, I got friends. I said, but your dad is my best friend. I think we have to be best friends before.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
That's good. All right, Mr. Terrell, what has marriage taught you in 18 years about yourself?
Don't use the music, though. Don't use the music.
No, I think it's taught me to be a man.
Amen.
Because in a marriage, I had to understand that I am the man of my marriage and the man of my home. So many times, before marriage, I acted as a boy. And there comes consequences and things that you have to be responsible for and accountable for in a marriage. So I had to accept that when you're a boy, you act like a boy. But when you're a man, you have to become a man. So that becomes being able to support my children, support my wife, whether it's spiritually, physically, and financially. I had to become a man. I had to be a man, not just talk about it. What people like, yo, I'm a man, and this is a man's. It's way beyond that. I had to be what it was. I had to become a man, and that's what I became. So that was the change in me, because I really wasn't. My age gave me a man in adulthood, but I wasn't a man until I actually married her. If that makes sense. I was I would say I was a young boy, a young man, but I became all out king when I married her, because that's what it put me in. I became royalty, not just to her, because when I would come to the door or come home, my kids come running, daddy, daddy. That just took me to another level. Well, when somebody counted on me, nobody ever counted on me. Wow. So that's what it taught me.
Praise God. That's good. That's awesome, man. And I would say, just to piggyback on, the Bible said, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Absolutely. That's it.
So that's a strong statement that you said in this podcast that I want to commend you for. That's awesome, and I hope a whole lot of people are listening because I think a lot of people want to take the attributes of a man but don't walk it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
My sole responsibility, because God is concerned about how I treat His daughter.
Right.
That means, are you financially taken care of?
Right.
Are you bringing home the check? Don't matter how much it is. 'Cause I know a lot of people make a whole lot more money, but they not good stewardships, so they
Absolutely.
still broke.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Are you kind to my daughter? Are you taking care of my daughter's kids? You know what I mean? Is daddy home on Friday night instead of running around town Friday and come back home on Sunday?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Can
Right.
she depend on you?
Right.
You know what I mean? Are you faithful to her? What
Right.
are your kids witnessing how you treat their mama?
Right.
You
Absolutely.
see what I'm saying? So that was powerful what you said. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
By him being a man, that's why I feel safe and not vulnerable.
Yes,
because
sir.
you know that we're here for each other. So it's not like, oh, you're behind him. No, I'm with him,
Yes.
and we're a team.
Praise God. That's
really
good.
That's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to just put a plug in. There's a podcast that I happened to come across by DeAndre Whitfield. I don't know if you guys.
He's an actor, yeah.
Yeah, actor, and he has a podcast called Male versus Man, and he's talking exactly about what Warren's talking about when a man transitions from being a male to a man.
Right.
And he's interviewing different men, and they're talking about that. And I came across of it he was doing one with Will Smith, and it was just so powerful. And so thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really, really important in our growth as human beings.
Right.
And the last question I want to ask you guys before we leave is, if you had a young couple that was coming to you, married or looking to be married, what piece of advice would you give them that you wish you would have had when you were their age considering marriage? What piece of advice? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to read a quote to give you time to think. So I'll put you on the spot. Let me read the question again. If you had a young couple that was coming to you that was either early in their marriage or considering marriage, just one thing, piece of advice would you give them that you wish someone would have given you early on in your marriage? And this last quote I'm going to read, it says, a successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person over and over again. And that's by Megan McLaughlin.
Right.
So in order for me to have a successful marriage, my love has to be renewed from him over and over again. There's a time and a season for all things. And each season, I've got to reconnect with him. And this is a new season for us, with us getting ready to be empty nesters, you know?
Praise the Lord.
And learning to fall.
We're right behind you.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing TikTok videos, y'all. And learning to fall in love with him again. And I think, right now where we are in our relationship, we have been parents for so long. For 20 years. I mean, as long as we've been married, we've been parents.
Right.
And
Jermaine was 5.
Right.
Tiffany was 5.
Yeah. And we have shared that common interest, is to be good parents.
Right.
Now our interest is going to change in the sense of, now our interest is, I need to share the common interest into now putting my energy that I expelled into those 4 kids into making you happy. And he has to in turn say, now I can't be too busy with work now and too busy with the kids. Now my energy has to be expelled into figuring out what Charlene needs to make her happy. And if he didn't know, I was just putting that in his ears. So
she always got anger, boy. She always got it.
I felt all that. I felt all that right there. Those are plugs, man.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just so powerful that, to really have a successful marriage, it requires falling in love again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for you too, what piece of advice would you guys give that newly married couple or that couple looking to get married? That one thing you would say, I wish somebody would have told me.
Well, I would say to continue to date each other, even married. Because like you said, you can get consumed by raising children, careers, and then you got to learn each other again because your time is occupied. But if you continue dating each other, if it's a Friday night or if it's a Wednesday, however, where you take the time when it's just you and him, I think that should always be there within the whole relationship. Like before COVID, I mean, we used to go out on Fridays and we'll go out, get something to eat, even if it's to drive and pick it up and come back, try to watch a movie together, fall asleep on it, but we're spending that quality time. So even for now, us being, quarantined, it's not hard for us to be quarantined, right, because we're used to being with each other and hanging out with each other.
I like that advice. What about you, Warren?
I would say just piggyback off of what she said, because we probably heard the things, keep people out your business and all, you heard these things, and keep God, so we know those things have been told to us. But I would piggyback off of what she said with the dating things, like continue to have fun with each other and make it intentional.
Yes.
And intentionally make a good time for each other, because many times in relationships or long relationships, we take advantage of that you're going to always be there no matter what, right? Rather than we forget, Chris Rock told us a long time ago. Chris Rock.
The words of Chris
Rock. He said every time, and I got to use different phrases because he used curse words, but every time a woman goes out, she get hit on, you know what I mean? 9 out of 10 times a day, right? I'm pretty sure that's not accurate, but they do get hit on, right? Somebody's looking at them, whether they know it or not. They watching them walk down the grocery aisle, or they see them doing this, that, and the other, and they looking at right?
Yes, sir.
We don't get that all the time, right?
That's right.
You always get offers, so we got to let our woman know, girl, let me tell you something. You know what I mean? We got to have fun with it, right? We got to let them always know that they still are what they were when we met. You know what I mean? And be intentional about having fun and letting the world know that this is our queen, and she let the world know this is our king. This is my king. So when we intentionally let the people know, that's what I try to do, like intentionally let people know this is what it is right here. And you're not going to break this bond, because when you hide your queen or king, or you don't intentionally let people know that this is what it is, it allows people room, like, oh, well, he don't talk about it that much, or he don't, she don't mention him that much, so maybe, I can sneak in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? You got to let people know this bond is not going to be broken, right? And that keeps the friction around, that keep that atmosphere protected. So you be intentional about, like, I'm good over here. You let her know, and she lets me know that let's go have some fun. We don't care who see us. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't care who see me dancing with my wife, because I got my wife by dancing. I got my wife.
Open up to her.
Yeah, I got my wife by kissing on her and loving on her. So you're not gonna change me. I don't care what people think, because me and God is cool. You know what I mean? He gave me these moves.
Yeah.
That is really good.
My attitude. So I don't care what people think. If I'm making her happy and I'm good in God's eyes, because we all are imperfect, and I let my kids know that we aren't perfect parents, because perfect parents raise perfect kids, right? Exactly. Crickets. Because it ain't no perfect parents and ain't no perfect kids. So we imperfect parents who has imperfect kids trying to make things perfect.
Yes.
And that's it.
Amen.
That is excellent advice. Continue to date. So for those married couples out there, or those couples who are considering marriage, I don't care if you've been married 2 days, 10 years, continue to date each other.
That's without children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be without
That's
the
right.
babies. Leave them at
Without the
home.
babies.
Be intentional on having fun with one another.
Right.
And you can continue to strengthen your relationship. You guys, I think that we have helped some people today to stay on this journey through the ups and downs, and knowing that they can make it together. The last thing we want y'all to do before we end, y'all got to turn and face each other.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. She takes So look your man in the eye, Melissa. Look your woman in the eye, Christopher, and say, baby, we can make it through this together.
We can make it through this together.
All right, now give him a kiss.
Come on. Thank y'all for having us.
Thank
We
you.
love y'all.
I love you guys. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all of you guys listening to us via our podcast platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, share this channel. Listen, we are only here trying to help, lift, love on everybody God gives us the opportunity to connect with. And we thank you and we appreciate you. Again, this is your girl Charlene, and we're signing out. Love you.
Yeah, it's whatever you need, 'cause girl,